Okay, somebody wants to read?
I'll read.
Okay.
पाञ्चजन्यं ऋषिकेशो देवदत्तं धनाञ्जय पौण्ड्रं दध्मौ महाशङ्खं भीमाकर्मा वृकोदरा. Translation: Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchjanya. Arjuna blew his, the Devdatta, and Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell called Poundra, purport. Lord Krishna is referred to as Rishikesha in this verse because he is the owner of all senses. The living entities are part and parcel of him, and therefore the senses of living entities are also part and parcel of his senses. The impersonalists cannot account for the senses of the living entities, and therefore they are always anxious to describe all living entities as senseless or impersonal. The Lord, situated in the hearts of all living entities, directs their senses, but He directs in terms of the surrender of the living entity. And in the case of a pure devotee, He directly controls the senses. Here on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Lord directly controls the transcendental senses of Arjuna, and thus his particular name of Rishikesha. The Lord has different names according to his different activities. For example, his name is Madhusudana because he killed the demon of the name Madhu. His name is Govinda because he gives pleasure to the cows and to the senses. His name is Vasudeva because he appeared as the son of Vasudev. His name is Devki Nandana because he is accepted Devki as his mother. His name is Yashoda Nandana because he awarded his childhood pastimes to Yashoda at Vrindavana. His name is Parthasarathi because he worked as charioteer of his friend Arjuna. Similarly, his name is Rishikesha because he gave direction to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Arjuna is referred to as Dhananjaya in this verse because he helped his elder brother in fetching wealth when it was required by the king to make expenditures for different sacrifices. Similarly, Bhima is known as Vrakodara because he could eat as voraciously as he could perform Herculean tasks such as killing the demon Hidimba. So the particular types of conch shell blown by different personalities on the side of the Pandavas, beginning with the lords, were all very encouraging to the fighting soldiers. On the other side, there were no such credits, nor the presence of Lord Krishna, the supreme director, nor that of the goddess of fortune. So they were predestined to lose the battle, and that was the message announced by the sounds of the conch shells.
I mean, first chapter purports are simply brilliant. Right, look at this. Who can explain this? Living entities are part and parcel of him, and therefore the senses of the living entities are also part and parcel of his senses. We would have read this so many times. What does this mean? What senses is Prabhupada talking about here? So it can't be material senses, right? Because our material senses are not part and parcel of his senses, because material has nothing to do with Krishna. So Prabhupada is talking about our transcendental senses, our spiritual senses. So our spiritual senses are there, which have to be used, which are part and parcel of Krishna's senses. But because we have we have identified ourselves with this material body and this material world, and we are wanting to enjoy independent of Krishna, now we are covered by our whole existence. Our spiritual form is covered by this material body, and the spiritual senses are covered by material senses. That is why this whole process of purification basically is like eliminating the material senses. And exposing the spiritual senses. So spiritual senses means activities in Krishna consciousness. So when we engage even through our material senses, we are trying to engage in bhakti. It is not actually bhakti, because bhakti is engaged in only with pure senses, with the spiritual senses. But this bhakti that we are performing is so that the purification happens, and so that our spiritual senses start engaging in Krishna service. So we are practicing bhakti to actually do bhakti later. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kangshati. Samas sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. So at that point of time, when we reach Brahma Bhuta is when we will actually engage. We will get bhakti. Krishna will give us bhakti. We cannot get bhakti. Sorry. Krishna will give us bhakti because it is his causeless mercy. So these, we are just covered by all this material, um, body and senses, and we are just stuck. So we have to just engage ourselves in activities of bhakti so that we revive ourselves. We basically wake up ourselves. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, this is also another beautiful one. The Lord situated in the hearts of the living entities directs their senses, but he directs in terms of the surrender of the living entity. And in case of a pure devotee, he directly controls the senses. So when Prabhupada said, who wrote these purports? What did Prabhupada say? Prabhupada said, Krishna wrote. How is he saying Krishna wrote? Because of this statement. Because in the case of a pure devotee, Krishna directly controls the senses. So whatever Prabhupada has written here in the purport, we should understand is what exactly Krishna wants us to hear. Okay, because it is completely under the control of Krishna. And for others, it is to the extent of their surrender. Yatamam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajamyam. So he will direct in terms of the surrender. Now, but Krishna is so merciful that as Paramatma, he is directing every soul. Okay, he's directing every soul. Even in their material conquest, he is directing them. And he's telling them this is right, this is wrong, don't do this, don't do that. But we are so engrossed in this, material world and in our own sense gratification that we don't listen to this sound, this voice of Paramatma. As we purify ourselves, we will gradually start coming under his control more. So we will start hearing him more, we'll start following him more. And for this to happen, we should surrender. So how do we understand this surrender? Surrender is very simple. Like, see, if so if we suppose there's a situation and we think that we can take care of the situation. If we think that we can take care of the situation, Krishna will say, yeah, yatamam prapadyante. Okay, you wish to take care of it. Okay, fine, that's fine. I'm fine with it. Like, the Draupadi's situation we talked about, right? Yesterday, last class. So Draupadi was trying to protect herself by her own actions. And Krishna was okay with that. He was, okay, that's fine. As a Jiva, you have freedom, free will. This is what you want to do. It's fine. But when Draupadi lifted both her hands and said, okay, Krishna, I don't have any other shelter, then Krishna said, okay, this is fine too. Now I will take control. Right? So he does just in terms of the surrender of our living entity. So if we completely depend on him, then he will take care of things. Now, interestingly, how do we let Krishna take care of things for us? Because we are so much in passion that any situation comes, we want to first jump and act. Right? Just think about your lives, right? Any situation that comes, how many of us take a step back and think first about Krishna, surrendering to Krishna, putting the situation in his lotus feet, and waiting for direction? This is actually what needs to happen. And what does this waiting for direction mean? That if we are not jumping up and down and trying to do something, then Krishna will show direction. Krishna will show direction. Maybe through, as Paramatma, he might guide. Through a lecture, he might guide. Through another devotee, he might guide. Through a non-devotee, he might guide. He will do the needful, provided we have the patience and faith to wait for his direction. Right? So Normally, the approach I try to take, and I tell other devotees also, is if you are in a difficult situation, just leave it to Krishna. Wait for some time. Right? You anyway tried whatever you had to do, nothing has worked, right? Or things are just going haywire. So just leave it. Don't act on it. Hmm? We had a very one of our devotees had a situation recently here. Uh, uh, and the situation was so difficult. We said, it's fine. Krishna has plans. He will not give up his devotees. So just be patient and just wait. Don't try to jump up and down in a situation, right? Because then you're not giving an opportunity for Krishna to act. And Krishna will say, okay, this person doesn't want me to get involved. He will not get involved. Hmm? This is very important. And devotees, we should have faith. If you think saying, oh, if I keep quiet, because we are so strongly, we think I am the doer, that we can't wait for Krishna to act or show us the direction. Okay, so Krishna is in control of our life to the extent we have surrendered to him. Okay, let me
Actually,
just
quick
finish.
question.
Prabhu, 1 second, I'll just finish this. So Krishna gave the direction to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which means practically whatever Arjuna did, where he, which side direction, what arrow to take, what to do, what everything, he directly guided from within, not from outside. Not like standing and he's riding the chariot. He's not saying, okay, Arjuna, hit left, hit right. No, because the war is happening at such a fast pace. It's all inside. Paramatma, Chaitya Guru. Hmm? Hmm. Right. So, and of course, Lord Krishna and the goddess of fortune, if they're not there, then it's all loss. That's it, right? For the opposing soldiers, there's no hope. Okay. Yes. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes. So you mentioned that we should wait for the direction. It might
Yeah.
come through any source. So how do we know that it is Krishna's direction?
How do we know it is Krishna's direction? Good question. Okay, that also requires surrender. Um, okay, so the way I've experienced this is initially these directions used to come from devotees, I felt in my own life, right? And I thought, okay, if the direction is coming from devotee, I'll just take it up. Then I saw that, when I was started to do this, then I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to explain. You'll just get it in that situation, Prabhu. You'll just feel like, okay, this is the right thing. Okay, somebody said this. This looks like the right thing to do. Or you might hear something and you might talk to another devotee and say, Prabhu, this is what situation, and does this seem like a good solution? I don't know. It just depends on the situation and individuals, right? But the point is that it will Krishna will reveal, and he will also give you the conviction to accept that path, right? So it will not that he will just reveal and put you in confusion. Sometimes situations also become such that you have to accept that path. So you would have heard of a path, you're not acting on that path. Like, for example, somebody told you something, but you're not doing anything about it. But when you then situations start changing in going in such a way direction that you suddenly realize, oh, whatever this person said looks like that is the only option I have, right? And you act on it. So there are various ways. There's no stereotyped way for this, right? It just Krishna from within will make us, because we have surrendered to him, he will make us understand that this is the path to take. And this is all, that is why I'm saying this is all not theory, right? This has to be experienced. Otherwise, it's very vague, we can't understand. So how do we let it happen? By
Surrender.
surrendering to Krishna. And when a situation comes, and this situation, what, it doesn't have to be like some very big situation. It can be small situations also, right? But we
Okay.
should be prepared to wait, right? But
Okay.
we are very impatient and we want like fast solution has to be there today, now, and from tomorrow everything should be back to normal. That is why Krishna says in, when he starts Atmagnan, he says Tam Titikshasva Bharata, because if you don't tolerate, you just lose yourself,
Or
right?
it's like we are supposed to get that misery, so
No, that is
that's
true. No,
yeah,
no, the misery, see, misery came. So, okay, so let's take a step back, right? So some situation happened. Now that situation happened because we had to suffer.
right.
Okay. But now
Then
because we have surrendered to Krishna, either it is our karma phala or Krishna is showing mercy to us. He wants to show direction to us, right?
Right.
Now, if we are surrendered to him, then he will want to show direction because that's his mercy, right? So
Right.
he will take us in such a direction that we will realize, and it depends, right? Like, for if Krishna wants that whole situation to get eliminated, then he will give a solution such that it will get eliminated. But if Krishna thinks that no, this situation being there only is beneficial for the devotee, then that will also happen.
Okay.
But I'm saying whenever
maybe
a solution is required, Krishna will give that intelligence from within or through other people, but he'll give the direction.
can I tell one example I heard today?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was hearing a interview of Leela Purushottam Prabhu. He's Dr. Lakshmidhar Behra. He is one of the scientists on the Bhaktivedanta Research Institute. So when he came to Krishna consciousness, he was doing his post graduation in he was doing his PhD in IIT Delhi. And one of his professors was a devotee, and he attended that professor's Bhagavad Gita lecture, and he became very enthusiastic. He started preaching and all. Then after 1 month, that professor, he took them to Vrindavan. So Prabhu was so overwhelmed with Vrindavan that after coming back to Delhi from Vrindavan, next day he went to his professor, who was his guide also, who was preaching to him, and he said, I am leaving this PhD. I don't want to do all this nonsense. I'll go to Vrindavan and dedicate my life to Krishna. So that professor told him that, see, if you do like this, people will call you Bhagoda. That means you have just run away. Who will stay here and preach if you do like that? So Leela Purushottam Prabhu, he was not interested in doing PhD at all. But doing PhD is not so simple. You have to put in a lot of effort. So what happened? He had submitted his paper to IEEE journal in UK, and then they wrote back to him saying, if you have to prove this algorithm you have proposed. So then Prabhu was thinking, who is going to prove this algorithm? I have to study variant calculus for this. I have to read so many papers. And this was in 1990s. So no Google, not much of internet and all. So he was not at all interested. So next day, after Mangalarti, when he was chanting in IIT Delhi Stadium, it's just, he was saying, I don't know how it happened, but in my mind, systematically, step by step, it was revealed how to prove that algorithm. He had not even studied the required disciplines to do anything towards it. But he just finished chanting, went back to his office, and he started writing down. It's as if somebody else was writing down, and he was able to prove that algorithm. So Krishna kind of showed him the way that he had to complete his PhD, and now it's helping him being part of Bhaktivedanta Research Institute.
So yeah, I mean, this somewhat this example is on the border. Hopefully, it was. I mean, he had pure devotional service as his intention, and that is the reason Krishna um, would have intervened. Yeah. Okay. Is that okay, Rohit Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, I got it. I think it's more of a experience which, and I think yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can also say a little bit from my experience in the sense that um, I don't want to spend too much time on material things generally. Okay. And I've seen multiple times, because I have no time for taking care of material things. Many a times things just get handled somehow, right? As in, I don't know. Right, because we want to dedicate time for Krishna. Krishna makes sure that our time is not wasted. Simple Simple example, right? Like, so tons of things like this, but you should let him act. The whole point here in this verse is that we should let Krishna act and not be in this, illusion that I am in control, I am the doer. We have to first give up all this nonsense from our head and, put the reins in Krishna's hands, because it is in Krishna's hands, but he is not taking it because we want to hold it. But when we put the reins back onto Krishna's hands, then he will drive us in the direction we have to go. And that is the best direction.
Right.
That's
Okay.
the best part.
And one more thing, Prabhuji, it can be however small it can be or big, doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Prabhuji.
See, because Krishna says one thing towards the end of Bhagavad Gita. He says that how should the devotee live material life? He said,
Okay.
saying every step you have to depend on me.
Right.
Right. So which means that, and this will apply only for those devotees who are surrendered to Krishna and who know that there is no other goal in life except serving Krishna and pleasing him. Now for such devotees, at every step, such devotees, even if they depend on Krishna, now they are not depending on Krishna because, oh Krishna, help me with this situation and give me this material result. No, just saying, okay, this is just maybe affecting my consciousness or driving me in a different direction or is making me endeavor in a wrong, whatever, right? So intentions are pure and Krishna takes care. But if intentions are impure, then they are not Nishkama Bhaktas, they are Sakama Bhaktas. And Krishna will then, he knows what to do for them or what best to do for each devotee. But for those who are Nishkama, who don't have any other desires except but to please Krishna, even small or big, like Prabhupada is saying, it directly controls the senses of a pure devotee.
Right. Got it.
Okay.
Yes,
Practical
Prabhuji.
application. This verse is for practical application. That's why
Yeah.
I said, right, first chapter is like is amazing. It's just, there are still some beautiful verses and beautiful lines that Prabhupada writes in the purport, which we should keep meditating. These statements, right? Like this, he directs to the extent of surrender, in terms of surrender, he directly controls the senses. These are like, what should I say? Okay, see, Madhurya Mataji has given a chat. Just now her experience. She had just messaged me before the class saying that I can't attend because of some situation at home. But she said somehow my mom mind changed and said me to stop helping her and asked me to go and have a walk in fresh air. So Krishna has used my mom to make way for me to attend class now. Now, Madhurya Mataji wanted to attend class. Krishna just created the situation such that her mom will do the needful. Right? So yeah, so it is not through devotee.
You mentioned it. It can come through non-devotees as
It
well.
can come through anything. It can come through any person, anything. It is. See, this is called Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness means being conscious that Krishna is there everywhere. Right? And be open. Be open. Don't be close-minded. And keep aligning what you're looking for to what signal he's giving, right? And when we are able to align that, then we know that, okay, boom, this is what is supposed to be done. You should experience it. I'm just like, it's like this gulab jamun I keep saying, right? Just experience it, then you will know what we are talking about here. So surrender, depend on Krishna, give up this illusion that we are the doer, and then we'll start experiencing these things. That is why this is Vijnana, which means by experience. Okay, so we will stop here. We are already at 9:12. So we finished 2 verses for the day. There are any questions?
Yeah. So Prabhupada writes that Krishna directly controls the transcendental senses of Arjuna, like gross senses of a pure devotee are transcendental. Or?
There are no gross senses for a pure devotee.
So the external senses are transcendental.
Body is spiritualized, no? That we will read as we go forward. Body is spiritualized to the extent of our
surrender.
Progress or surrender.
Okay.
So when
Okay.
body is spiritualized, same senses get spiritualized, Prabhu. I had the same question.
No, the material senses are just a covering. So the spiritual senses start manifesting.
Okay. But they are like replicas of our material senses, like
Not like replica, no. Like, see, spiritual senses have nothing to do with material things, right? And you can't think like, okay, my eyes are round, so my spiritual eyes are also round. No, there is no connection to that. This is just a covering, and this covering we have got based on our karma, right? I had
yeah.
to suffer in a particular way, so I got all these organs in particular shape, size, form, color, etc. This has nothing to do with my spiritual senses. The spiritual
Yeah.
senses are all spiritual, right? So there's no material quality there.
So there can be more senses which might be capable of doing something else also. Like, so there is one statement in Bhagavatam, right, that whatever exists in material also exists in spiritual world, right?
Right?
Because whatever we can think of or whatever we perform, that cannot be absent in spiritual world. In fact, spiritual
Yes.
world might have something more than what we don't have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is it like it might also be the case that there might be some senses which we can't even conceive what they can perform in spiritual world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, see, our spiritual senses, we can't realize the complete power of our spiritual senses. Actually, why pure devotees want to go out of this material world is because with the material senses, the extent of perfection they can achieve, they can experience here is also limited. I mean, there is still, even if everything is purified, because we are still in this material realm, there are limitations.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is a very high topic. We will come to it slowly and steadily. Okay, so we will stop here for today. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.